All right, top news coming in with regard to now the top court. Remember, it's going to be a big day in the legal corridor. Supreme Court will hear a batch of pro and anti-Waqf Act pleas. Supreme Court, remember, it stayed the operation of certain parts of the contentious Waqf law, including the inclusion of non-Muslims in the Waqf board and the council. So the hearing for that was scheduled for the 5th of May. That's happened. The Chief Justice-led bench also said that the Waqf by user provision should not be denotified till then. The government of the centre has assured the top court no appointment would be made to the Waqf board. New law tweaks the composition of the Waqf board, making it compulsory to also include at least certain non-Muslim members in the board, to which the Muslim bodies had been strongly against. India Today's legal correspondent Srishti Ojha joins me for the latest on that. Srishti, tell me more about this. The Supreme Court has stayed the operation of certain parts of the contentious Waqf law, including the inclusion of non-Muslims and more. How is it going to be important today? What are we expecting?
Well, Pooja, as we know, on the last occasion when the court had heard these petitions and the court had showed an inclination towards granting an interim stay, the centre, through the Solicitor General, had ensured the court making a statement with regard to two particular issues. Firstly, they said that the Waqf by user will not be denotified in the next day, and also no appointments of non-Muslim members would be made to the central or central council or state Waqf board. Now, post that, we have seen the centre also file its affidavit before the Supreme Court, saying arguing against any interim cause of the petitions. They've argued that even if all Waqf, including Waqf by user, had to be mandatorily registered under the original Act of 1923 as well. The basic case that the government is trying to make here through their affidavit is that Waqf by user and registration of Waqf properties has always been a part of the law. It's not something that they're introducing right now. And if properties were not registered under the previous laws, then that is something that was basically a fault that was committed by those parties. Now, the hearing today becomes crucial because the court will hear the Solicitor General on these aspects and will basically decide whether or not any interim stay has to be granted.
Srishti, tell me, where does the Act presently stand? Because when once cleared by the Parliament, it's facing this legal hurdle. How are we looking at eventually the Waqf Amendment Act and then for it to become a law?
Well, Pooja, as we know, the Act has been notified. It's already been passed and notified. So the Act is already in operation now. But as we know, two particular provisions, only through an oral statement will not be in operation, because an oral statement was made by the Solicitor General, which was recorded by Supreme Court of its order. When we talk about any act which has been passed by the Parliament, there's a certain presumption in favour of their constitutionality before court. So the courts don't very ordinarily stay or grant interim stays very easily. But in this case, we saw the court consider staying not the entire Act. The court clarified it's not staying the entire Act, but some provisions of the Act, because they had some concerns with regard to what would happen to Waqf by user properties or masjids which are thousands and hundreds of years old. So that is a very specific thing in this particular case, that despite a usual presumption that is there in favour of an Act, the court is still considering staying certain provisions. So whether or not the court will do that, or will the Solicitor General be able to convince court against granting...
So pro and anti, both pleas will be heard. Both sides will put their perspective. Very crucial for both sides, remember. At least with regard to certain amendments, could there be a change in it? So we'll be tracking that and more. Srishti, thank you very much for now.